Hi, everybody. Hi, Diamonds. Happy Thursday to you all. I hope you're feeling incredible, feeling wonderful, and having an amazing day so far and an amazing week. Okay, so I'm reading White Noise by the amazing Sophia Soames. Chapter 24 Matt. You should ask him to come. Come on, Matty. Don't split on us now. My colleague Otis was all flushed, the 2 beers he'd downed already making him slur. Not that I blamed him. We were all hot and bothered, and the cool air inside the Korean restaurant where we'd found ourselves was heaven on my skin. I was soaked in sweat and probably stank a bit. We all did, and the poor server was trying to get all 10 of us seated around a small table. The couple next to us got up and left. I didn't blame them. We were a rowdy bunch, and the table was only meant for about 4. It was London on Pride weekend, and the city was packed. I usually didn't mind it, but for the first time ever, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be where Con was, and it was doing my head in. I'd quite happily survived 2 weeks without him, yet it had been just a few hours and I was having a mental breakdown. You're away with the fairies again, Matthew. Sadie was always blunt. I don't know what's up with you, but the last couple of weeks you've been all off. You met a bloke, and suddenly, you've completely gone gaga. I've not gone gaga, I protested, and she laughed. I would have laughed too. Apart from my entire work team was nodding in agreement. We need to meet him. Why isn't he here? Yeah, where is he? He's busy, I tried, but they were having none of that. You said he's here, at Pride, on his company float. Then you refuse to tell us who he worked for. Is he ugly or something? Ooh, I smell drama. He's probably a straight, married dude, and Matt is his bit on the side. Otis needed to stop drinking, because now he was being downright rude. I decided to give them something, hoping it would shut them up. He works for White Noise. You know, the TV show? God, that Cas Powell is the hottest thing I've ever seen. Grunts of agreement came from several people as someone loaded up a dirty picture of a half-naked Con and passed it around. He's a nice bloke and just like us. We're all with our work colleagues. He's probably out with his mates. I was digging myself into a hole. So, there's a White Noise float. They should join us. They might even bring Cas Powell. Someone shouted at the end of the table. Ugh, I'd die. Can't stand him. No, Sadie wouldn't die. She would hug him and say something deeply inappropriate, and Con would walk out in embarrassment. I needed to direct the attention away from myself. My colleagues were brilliant human beings, and normally I would have laughed along, but there was no way of subjecting Con to this. Ah, shoot. Yeah, the crackling one moment. Shoot. There we go. Sorry. Resume. I got up and excused myself to a corner and tried Con's number. I didn't expect him to answer, but surprise, surprise, he did. Where are you? He asked, clearly sat in a car. I could hear the engine running in the background. Say hello to Dave, I said, hoping he would offer to pick me up and I would have a valid excuse to slide out the door. We're stuck in traffic, somewhere in Soho. Where are you? Can we come to where you are? Dave will know how to find you. Very Con. As always, Dave knew everything. I'd learnt that bit. We're in a Korean dive called Kimchi, Chinatown. There was silence, then Con's voice blending with someone else's. We'll be there in a minute. Then he hung up. I was going to have words about his phone etiquette. He was obviously not alone in the car, and any excess words would have been inappropriate, But what had that all meant anyway? I went back to the table and sat nervously, scrolling my phone, hoping he would at least give me a clue. Was I going outside? Was he coming in? Please don't come in. A fresh beer appeared in front of me. I really shouldn't drink anymore, but... So, is the boyfriend coming? Please don't, I hissed at Sadie. Hey, I'm being polite. It's always nice to meet a partner. Say it's the woman who won't even show me a photo of her girlfriend. Some things are private, she huffed. Exactly. Sadie went red and fiddled with her phone, and I let out a little smile. I could be pushy too, but I was getting nervous. And rightly so, because here was Con, walking down the stairs with Inspector Stella Rubin. Hey! I stood up, not knowing what to do, as the table had fallen silent, and Con looked as shell-shocked as I felt. Oh, he said. I wasn't sure what he'd expected, but not this. Definitely not this. I went into overdrive, giving Stella Rubin an awkward hug. We hadn't met before, but she clearly knew who I was, and me calling her Stella made her grimace. Her name wasn't Stella, I knew that, but I couldn't make my head function. Caroline, Con whispered in my ear as I did the most awkward round table introduction to my colleagues, who were all gulping like goldfish. I hate you, Sadie burst out, staring angrily at Con, who was looking a little bemused. I do apologise, he stuttered. Then he laughed. Hello, Sadie, he said. Now it was my turn to do the fish impression. You know each other? I squealed out as Sadie got to her feet. That was rude. Sorry, she said. No offence, Con said politely. Is Tara here too? On location. Fucking 5-day shoot. Bloody awful, especially this weekend. She was supposed to be here. Wait, I said. I wasn't sure how I was still talking, and if I'd been hot before, I was positively melting now. Your girlfriend is Tara Marie? Yep, and Connor here is her fake bloody boyfriend. I can't even describe it. It doesn't sit well with me. She always says you're the most jealous person in the world. Con smiled, sitting himself next to Sadie like he was staying when he definitely were not. I was not going to sit here and... Is a seat taken? Caroline. I sighed. I was sitting in a Korean restaurant next to Inspector Stella Rubin. My life had just gone off the rails. Again. Weird. You know these people? Otis drunk whispered across the table. Caroline, this is Otis, I said, deciding to get it over with. Head of chemistry and physics. He's a bit drunk, so ignore everything he says. Forewarned was forearmed, but Otis actually shook Caroline's hand and then Con's hand and mumbled something about loving his work, and Con... The rainbow-coloured t-shirts he and Caroline were wearing were not subtle. If they were attempting to fly under the radar, it wasn't happening here. Sure enough, within minutes, someone at the next table got up and asked for a photo. You. We need to talk, Sadie hissed across the table. Okay. There were terrified butterflies trying to flee my stomach. Why didn't you tell me you're seeing Con Telford? Why didn't you tell me you know Con Telford? We both glanced at Con, who had returned to his seat post-photo and was staring at me with a cute, weirded-out look on his face. How mad is that? He said, reaching out and taking my hand. You work with Sadie. God, I wanted to kiss him so badly it hurt. But if we weren't careful, this was all going to end in tears. Who's Sadie? Caroline asked. I'd almost forgotten she was there. Me, Sadie grinned. She hates me, Con filled in. I'm fake dating her girlfriend, and according to Twitter, we're getting married. You dumped her, Sadie pointed out. I saw the texts. No taking it back, dude. You're split up and staying so. Our work commitments were obviously keeping us apart, Con said flatly, like this was a normal conversation. Caroline pretended to slap him over the head, then turned to me and took my hand. I need to tell you all about Connor here. All his bad habits. Did you know he's been known to pick his nose? Yeah, I didn't need to know that, but whatever. More beers arrived. Sadie threatened to cut Con's manhood into risotto if he ever came near her girlfriend again. I tuned out for a while, and when I tuned back in, they were planning some kind of garden party. My head spun a little. I needed to stop drinking, but at the same time, was I really supposed to smile this much? It turned out Caroline was delightful, and we quickly got talking about education and university studies, and I almost forgot who she was. Just like I was almost enjoying myself. I wasn't really a social butterfly. Work meetings with set agendas were much more my jam, but sat here letting the beer soothe my nerves, especially with Con sitting across the table from me, it was actually okay. He and Sadie were engrossed in conversation, yet he kept reaching over and touching my fingers, shooting small, longing glances my way. It made me all jittery in the calmest possible way. He drove me crazy. You! Chloe, head of year 10 and also slightly terrifying, plonked down beside me. What the hell, Matt? You're dating Connor Telford? She shook her head. How the hell does that happen in real life? I'm having some kind of weird Notting Hill moment here. Caroline leaned in. Girl, I work with him every day. Every day. I keep thinking someone's having a laugh. Which, of course, made Chloe blush vividly. She grabbed my bottle of beer and took a gulp, then put it down in a flurry of nervous apologies. And you're like my superhero, she said, suddenly starstruck. I use a scene from White Noise in my fact-checking lecture. Always reevaluate the evidence. Use multiple sources. And trust nothing but your instinct. If you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? I wish I could take credit for at least some of those lines, but I just turn up and play out a script, sometimes even with conviction. Convincing enough for me. I teach drama and philosophy. Now I'm scared, Caroline laughed. Never actually studied any of it. And it makes you all the better for it. Chloe looked at me pointedly. I took the hint and got up, so they weren't talking around me. Caroline jerked her head towards Con, directing me to sit with him. To be honest, I don't think Inspector Rubin fully understands her own logic. She lost a witness, twice, because she didn't fact-check. She's a little irresponsible at times. You're allowed to be a little irresponsible in a scripted drama. In real life, we have to be bang on or we find ourselves in front of tribunal or over calling something trivial the wrong word. And you deal with children. Caroline made a face that made me laugh. We are inner city senior school teachers, I said. Nothing phases us, not even children. We can definitely deal with everything, Chloe agreed. Apart from having Korean food with famous people. What the fuck, Matt? Yes, Matt. What the fuck? 1 minute, Connor's your token boring actor with no life. The next, he's losing the plot and causing trouble all over the shop. I don't cause any trouble, Con protested in fake shock. I'm very easy to work with. Lies. Caroline sat up straight. I know for a fact that you've turned half of the cast queer. Have not, he pouted, although he was laughing. He did, even as girls. Connor did his best disgusted face. I mean, look at me, Caroline said. I kiss him on the daily, and God, never again. The table howled. She was funny and clearly a good actor, as she now had everyone in stitches recalling some story about an extra who'd had trouble letting go of Con's manhood. Through his costume, and something about a security guard getting the sack after stealing Stella Rubin's bra. It wasn't even an excuse, but I had to go pee, so I scooted away to the gents where I could finally breathe. I washed my hands and stood there for a while, holding onto the sink and studying my reflection in the mirror, hoping my insides could rearrange themselves back into full human order. I still looked like me, but I didn't feel like me. I felt like someone else, someone smiling back at me in the mirror. It had been a long day, a full-on day. I switched out of my thoughts as Con slid through the door and carefully wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. He planted a soft kiss on my neck. Sorry to just barge in, but I just needed to see you. Caroline is having the best time out there, and I'm just so bloody proud. So you should be. You are a wonderful, gorgeous human being who I am really, really proud to call my boyfriend. He laughed. You and your boyfriend stuff. I saw you on Twitter. That kiss is going viral. There's nothing behind it. We're just, friends. And we're messing a bit with each other. With everything and everyone. Because apparently Caroline and I have fallen out. Spectacularly. And are now threatening the whole production. It's all our fault according to some new article in the Daily Mail. Oh, is it? And are you now? I mocked. Yeah, and then we're getting married, he smiled. I just grinned into the mirror, grasping his hand in mine. So, what happens next? Well, since I don't actually believe a thing I read online, I thought that maybe you and I could go back out there and have some food. By the way, I ordered for you. With Sadie's help. I can't believe you know Sadie, of all people. I still don't get it, I had to admit. I had no idea what had just gone down out there. It's been an ongoing thing since Tara's and my management decided to stage our relationship for our brands. Sadie hates it because they wanted to get married. And now they can. Okay, Sadie's marrying a supermodel. She's fresh out of teaching college. 21 or something. Probably not, he laughed. But anyway, back to the Korean food. They don't do omelette. Oh no, I teased. God, he was ridiculous. Yeah, so your friend Otis has ordered me something full of chili and stuff, so we can share. Can you help me order something I might be able to eat? I have no idea what anything on that menu is. Muffin. I turned around and cupped his chin, kissed the tip of his nose because away from all the madness out there was this incredibly gorgeous man. All it took was one sentence, and I was falling head over heels in love with him again. I was thinking earlier, he said, hooking his arms around my neck. I've been so scared of this theatre gig, thinking I couldn't do it. You can do it, I said sternly, hoping I wasn't saying the wrong thing. I think I can, he smiled, because my life is about to totally change, again. I have so much to tell you, and I think that play will be the least of my worries. I was standing on that float today, and I was bloody terrified, because I had to be me, just me. Nobody else. I couldn't even pretend to be Cass Powell, because it wasn't his day. I just didn't have a clue who I was supposed to be. So, I decided to be your boyfriend. That was the only thing that kept me sane. I saw, I whispered. I'd seen his arm, still covered in smushed ink. I could still make out the letter spelling out Matt. Con wasn't subtle. And the fact that he was here with his gratified arm and all his words and his thoughts and that I was the one who got to hear them. This is the hardest part I've ever played, he said quietly. Trying to be a real person. Figuring out who I am. Being able to interact with people in, real situations. And I can do it. I never thought I could, but I can. It's hard, but it's going to be fine. Lots of things are about to change, Matt. I know, I murmured, letting my lips finally meet his. I needed that connection with him. All that matters is that I know that this is real. What you and I have is real. Everything else is just... He smiled, and he kissed me, and I kissed him back. Everything else is just white noise in the background. It made sense, and in that moment, I could feel it too. I also really need to pee, he smiled, and I let go of him, slapped his shoulder, pushed him away from me, and manhandled him into a cubicle, laughing when he shut the door in my face. He was too much, too real, too mine. Matt? He called from behind the door. Yeah? When we've eaten... I know what was coming. Yes, baby, we can. Good. I heard him giggling as he flushed the toilet. Because I asked Dave to pick us up in an hour and take us home. I need a shower, and I need to lie in bed with you and just put myself back together again. And have sex? I smiled innocently. He walked back out and held up his hands. Then he leaned in and kissed me, and my chest burst with all the feelings that I had no idea how to put words to. Epilogue. Con. 1 year later. I turned my head and buried my face in Matt's shoulder because I still, a year later, couldn't watch the scene that was currently being blasted out on the screen with Caroline's voice shouting lines of pure hatred as my face twisted in pain. We'd both been so over it, over everything, filming those last scenes. And, of course, the test audience had hated the ambiguous ending with Cass's and Stella's bodies lying on a deserted mountaintop, played by body doubles so our faces weren't even clear. We'd wrapped and unwrapped and reshot, and yes, we'd still died a horrible death, and that look of betrayal on my face, well, Cass Powell's face, as he'd drawn his last raspy, blood-soaked breath. That scene was about to earn me another award. I kind of knew I had it in the bag, since I'd been slipped a thank you speech with pointers and all the names I needed to mention. I had memorized it already, so the speech would be no problem. I was slightly still bitter over the way White Noise had gone down, but I was also thrilled that Aisha was spilling all the gossip from the Season 7 set, since I'd had stern words with her about applying for the set manager job and not accepting anything less. She'd nabbed that job, and my heart skipped a joyful beat every time our little group chat pinged with more news of drama, breakdowns, and a new lead actor who was as straight as they came and had a clause in his contract of no full frontal nudity and no explicit scenes with members of any gender. Why they'd thought they could make a White Noise season without the sex was beyond everyone involved, not least Caroline and me, who seemed to know our fanbase better than the goddamn script writers and producers. It would be a shit show. A lazy script, a haphazardly put together cast, and a team on minimum pay who'd already caused production delays by working to scheme and union rules. I didn't blame them. If I'd worked to the rules, we would still be shooting season 1, and looking back now, I should perhaps have fought more, stood up for myself. Not that it mattered. I was gripping Matt's hand so tight that he probably had no blood left in his fingers, but I needed him here, desperately. And the winner of Best Actor in a Television Drama is... Cue the obligatory Dramatic pause, and smarmy smile as some Love Island winner wearing an impossibly small dress tried to open an envelope with her 2 long nails. I knew the drill. If it hadn't already been obvious that I'd bagged the award, the 2 camera crew in my face waiting for that golden moment of tear-jerking TV would have given the game away. We'd already done this twice. Caroline and I had been up there to accept Best Scene in a television drama and Best Script for a television drama. Not that we'd had anything to do with the script, but the writing team had been up there too in the background. No one cared about them. They wanted us at the front, the 2 of us looking suitably awkward as we politely accepted awards that were then handed to the scriptwriters, who handed them to handlers as soon as the cameras went to adverts. Connor Telford for White Noise. Here we went again. Not that I wasn't proud. There were actors here who had done much better work than I had, but still. I smiled, stood up and put my hands around Matt's face, kissed him, mouthing, "I love you," as the camera zoomed in on me. The viewers at home would have some narrator going over my bio and pointing out that my partner was in the crowd supporting me tonight, and that Caroline and the entire White Noise team were cheering loudly behind me as I buttoned up my suit jacket and confidently strode up towards the stage. More rare kisses, more awkward smiles. Blinding stage lights in my eyes as I pretended to be shocked and honoured and to not know what to say. I would like to thank the production team of White Noise, who have endlessly supported me during the past years. Without the fantastic teamwork behind me, I wouldn't be standing here. I am incredibly honoured, I waffled on, names and bullshit dripping from my lips as I smiled. Most of all, I want to thank Caroline Kovash, who has been my constant companion throughout this amazing adventure, and my partner Matt, who I love more than anything else in the world. Thank you. I smiled some more, waved the award around like I meant it, and got my picture taken with the Love Island woman and her nails, as well as some other people who apparently mattered. Then I was ushered around the back for more bullshit and pictures, as the award got swirled away, not to be seen again until it would appear on Lucia's office shelf, and eventually get packed up and stored in my mum's loft. These things were all trivial ego boosts for show, and didn't really matter. Not in my world. Lucia was proud as punch, though, as I gave her a brief hug and returned to my seat between Caroline and Matt. "Good job," Caroline giggled. "You look like a stiff." "Can't help it in this suit. It's too small and—" "I like too small," Matt murmured. "Makes your arms look massive." Good job you're playing some kind of cartoon superhero next." He wasn't helping and took none of this too seriously. Thank God. He was always there, mocking me and loving me and holding me at night. Everything I needed in the world. "It's a children's movie, based on a very famous children's book," I insisted. "Yes." Inappropriate after playing Cass Powell, and I knew it, but Lucia was working hard at broadening the roles I took, and after I had comfortably survived the LA Boys run, and then ended up doing a BBC period drama where I once again had been mostly naked, she'd rightly decided that it was time for me to change direction and be more family-orientated. My next job was playing a superhero, who wore very few clothes. I tried to point that out to her, but she just tutted and threatened to book me another round of auditions in LA. I refused to go to LA. I'd had so much of my life directed at me, and I was finally taking control. I was going to stay here, with Matt, doing what I wanted. "You did good. We did good." Caroline protectively patted my arm as the camera crew once again swung by us. We were still a team, and still seen as the stars of White Noise, since nobody knew what the next season would bring. Well, the viewers were stupid if they thought we'd be back, since Inspector Stella Rubin had been the one to stab me in the chest in a scene of the ultimate betrayal. Ultimate prize, my ass. Then Toby had been back, which had been the only highlight of that pathetic reshoot in Norfolk, and he'd looked as smarmy as ever shooting Stella to Kingdom Come in a twist that had shocked the nation. Even I had been stunned into silence when I'd watched the finished season. The scriptwriting team deserved that gong because the storyline had once again tied together to become an awe-inspiring, award-winning show full of twists and turns. Still, I couldn't watch part of it. Too many feelings being triggered in my chest that I didn't want to remember. Too much love for the man who grabbed my hand. You did good. I know. We were at another ad break. The stills photography team zoomed in, and Matt was told to move out of the shot so they could get a shot of Caroline and me looking all cozy, which I wasn't having. Neither was Caroline, who always had my back. Wrapping her arms around my neck, she pulled at Matt's tie to produce something that would probably make headline news in the morning. I knew how filthy it looked, her planting a kiss on my cheek while tugging at Matt's tie and me looking at Matt like I wanted to eat him. For the record, I did. And would, later. I had Dave on standby and was planning on being in bed by midnight. We still lived in our little place on Cardiac Road, and anyway, Matt had assembly to run in the morning, and Caroline and I were working. It didn't feel much like work. Fuck, they're annoying. Remind me to talk about this tomorrow. Absolutely. We'll blow the lid off awards shows and probably never be invited to one again. Good thing Lucia is censoring our shit then. I think Matt and I should switch seats, just to confuse him even more. And Matt, we need to snog at the after party. Scandal is the first of my many names, okay? My Matt just sighed, taking Caroline exactly for what she was. Caroline and I still took the mickey out of each other, but now also ribbed each other as a podcast on Spotify. Our weekly episodes of Beyond the Noise had started as an afternoon of ideas and too much wine in Tara and Sadie's garden, and ended up being a slick production that was now being pitched as a major documentary, which they wanted me to narrate. There was also talk of a book, which filled me with dread because that hadn't been part of why we'd started this in the first place. But apparently, our view of growing up in the limelight and being hounded by a life lived in the shadow of social media had married well with our discussions on sexuality and gender identity. We also knew enough interesting people to support us, and the episode where Tara and I had discussed that now famous photo shoot had shot us straight up the charts. I told Lucia she shouldn't have worried about those pictures, and she just huffed at me, calling me her problem child. I was nobody's problem child. Well, maybe I was, as my mum and Matt's mum and my auntie Trish waved at us from the guest seats as I snagged for them in the balcony above, along with Mrs. Wu and Wei. Yes, friends. I had them now. I had good friends. I, gulp, socialized with normal human beings, and that realization always made me smile. I was still me, and I could do most things. Life had changed in so many ways. Mum just went to the loo and washed her hands next to Olivia Colman, Matt whispered. She just texted me and she's like totally flustered. I'll get her to do a meet and greet later. I'll ask Lucia to arrange it. I picked up my own phone to send off instructions to do just that. Lucia managed everyone and knew full well that when I asked for something, it wasn't because I was an idiot with delusions or of grandeur. I just sometimes needed things done. Nice things, for nice people. Like making sure Aisha got the job. Like giving Dave a raise and keeping him on my books. Like, I need the loo, Matt whispered, standing up to move out of our row of seats. We were still on a break, and I could really do with just stretching my legs, so I followed him. One of the security dudes nervously let us know that we needed to be back in our seats in 7 minutes. 7 minutes, I whispered to Matt, grabbing his hand as we walked along the loos. Plenty of time. He grinned. He knew exactly what I was up to, what he was up to, and neither of us needed the toilet. I pushed him into the first cubicle, turning around to lock the door as Matt got his trousers undone, and I wasted no time pulling them down over his hips. And his underwear. Whoops. His arse landed heavily on the toilet seat as I got down on my knees. We didn't need 7 minutes. We needed, well, 2, max, looking at the state of Matt's dick. I was good at this. Really good. And I didn't even need an intimacy coordinator or a script these days, as I licked around the head of his swollen cock and gently sucked at the tip. Was Matt enjoying it? I'd say so. The way his hands were clamped against the walls and his leg kicked out to the side as I swallowed him down and slowly rose up, licking trails along the way. My hand played with his balls, his legs spreading a little further as I unbuttoned myself and teased my dick out. Fuck this, Matt groaned. Let me up so I can turn around, and then just bloody fuck me, baby. Not enough time, I gasped, as he did exactly that. Dragged me up with him and presented me with that delicious arse of his. Plenty of time. Here, lube. That was my Matt, always prepared. His pockets always contained a blister pack of paracetamol, my favourite chewing gum, a pen, and small, handy packets of lube. His fingers were already playing with his opening, softening him up as I coated myself in smooth silk. 4 minutes to go, he panted. Go hard and fast. There were other people coming and going into the loo, but I didn't honestly care. There was music playing loudly over the speakers, and noise from the main hall blending with the moans coming out of Matt's mouth as I lined up my dick and pushed. Hard. He'd asked for it, and I would never say no to this. A hard, fast fuck in a small space where I could let go of the world and just be me. I was a dirty fucker, and this was my jam. My dick buried so deep inside of him that I practically saw stars, his hand flying back to join mine on his hip, our fingers tangling as another deep moan came from his mouth. Come on, don't hold back, he teased. I'd been scared to hurt him at the beginning, but we'd practiced, a lot, making these moments count where he was in unfamiliar situations and I needed grounding, and we both knew that perhaps sex wasn't always the right solution. But for us, like this, when the world became too big and we just needed the space around us to shrink, it was perfect. Gonna come, he huffed out, his hand back pumping his dick, the other holding him up over the toilet seat as I shifted my feet to get a better angle. Then I pulled out, slammed back in, pounded him at speed as his moans grew into a constant roar. I came. I knew I would, but it still blinded me. Completely. My mouth hung slack, and I was quite sure I was drooling down my chin. I managed to compose myself enough to wipe it off with the back of my hand and tug at Matt's jacket as he clumsily stood himself up, his hand full of cum and his breath all ragged. You're a terror, he mumbled as I buried my face in his back. Just needed you, came out of my mouth. I did. I always did. He calmed me, soothed me, put me back together again when I forgot who I was. Deep down, I'd always known, but it was still a shock every time I realized that he was mine, that he loved me back, that I was special. I'd never felt special, but to Matt, I was. I was just as important to him as he was to me. Knowing that, and that it was true, always made me well up. I wasn't going to cry. I was not going to cry in the men's room at the British National Television Awards. 1 minute, Muffin, he said softly, kissing my lips. He was pulling my trousers up, fastening my belt as I fiddled with the zip. My legs were still shaking, and he was laughing as he let himself out of the cubicle and went to wash his hands. There's spunk on my belt, I complained as I moved to the sink next to him. Just button up your jacket. Nobody will know. He deadpanned as I burst into laughter. We gotta go. Mr. Telford? Oh, ugh, security. Mr. Telford, we really need you back in your seat. Yeah, time to face the world again. Become Mr. Telford, whoever he was today. Me. Maybe he was me. I smiled and grabbed Matt's hand, and we walked back to our seats with confident smiles on our face. Caroline stared at us in disgust. You reek of sex, she whispered. Matt blushed. Nonsense, Caroline, he huffed, looking scandalized. As if we would. We would, I whispered. Then I grinned. Because this was my life, and I was going to live it. Then we have the thank you page. Thank you to my amazing team of humans who make my stories the best they can be. You know who you are. Debbie McGowan for the brilliant edits and for being so incredibly patient with my messy, messy men. Sarah Coppin at Manor Editing Services for picking up on all my little mistakes. Casey Carmine for sorting out my formatting. Special thank you to the lovely Rourke for again helping me create the perfect cover. If you enjoyed this book, please rate it, and if you have time, write a short review. I am always grateful for your words and your support. Thank you for reading, Sophia. And that's the end of White Noise. Guys, look here. The Rourke stories. Sorry, you can't see. The Rourke stories. That's so cool, right? The Rourke stories. Force majeure, dirty, sexy, stupid love. White Noise. That is so cool, right? I'm going to take a photo of that. I'm just going to take a photo of that. Wait. Yeah, that really is a special accomplishment, isn't it? Really, really special. So there we have it, guys. That's the ending of White Noise. See you guys after the weekend.